Okay.
You might have gotten a okay to record situation.
I did.
Okay. Hello and welcome to the On It Not In It interview series. I'm your host, Todd Eppert, and today I'm joined by Shawn Waldman, who is the founder and CEO at Secure Cyber Defense. Shawn, thank you so much for joining us. Would you like to kick us off with a brief background as to who you are and what you guys do there?
Sure. Well, thanks, Todd, for having me. My name is Shawn Waldman. I'm the founder of Secure Cyber Defense. I founded a cybersecurity only company going on now 9 years ago. I started pretty much my entire career up to that point was in state and local government. I was a police officer. I was a 911 operator, focusing obviously, much of my career on public safety and public service. So 9 years ago, I kind of got the idea that this cybersecurity thing might become a thing, and that people were going to need expertise with cyber. So it was interesting because I saw a lot of IT companies, a lot of managed service providers out there that said, "Oh, and we're going to do security too." And I thought, that might not be a long-term strategy, a good idea. I still think that people are going to need, eventually they're going to want to come to somebody that just does cyber and concentrates on that. So, we operate here in Moraine, Ohio. We have our own security operations center. We do a lot of that, just traditional cybersecurity consulting, professional services, guidance with compliance programs and those types of things.
Awesome. So you mentioned the market pool that kind of pulled you into business. You were in government work, like you said, and you saw the cyber industry as this big opportunity. And hey, why not start a company? I think 9 years ago was kind of on the bleeding edge a little bit in that industry,
sure.
Especially outside of the government, right? I don't think anybody ever had an imagination that cyber would really be in our face in the small business world or anywhere else. Sure, in the government, but why in the small business space? So let me ask you though, I mean, leaving a government role, was there something else that caused you to say, I'm going to take advantage of this entrepreneurial itch I've got?
Oh, no, I don't know. I don't even know how to explain that. Like, I think from an entrepreneurial standpoint, I felt like everyone else that's going to watch this podcast and go, man, I want to own my own company, right? I want to do my own thing. I want to be my own boss. And everybody falls short of actually doing it. Right. So they get right up to that and they go, oh, but how am I going to do health insurance? And I don't really know how to pay my first employee. And it seems like the taxes are going to be real complicated. I don't know how to deal with that. So they just stop. So what got me over that hump? Honestly, like, it was an opportunity came to me, and it was very unique. It was a very unique opportunity where there was a business in the Ohio area that needed cyber help. And it just so happened that I could structure the deal where I could get basically a good amount of the salary that I would need to, quit my full-time job and go, venture out into the unknown I could sustain myself financially for about 6 months.
Yeah.
And I just did it. Like, I just said, I checked with my wife and she was like, go for it. Like, let's just do it. What's the worst that could happen is that in 6 months you need to find a job.
Right. So you were in the entrepreneurial category that said, I'm just going to jump out of the plane and hopefully the parachute I've got on works.
That's exactly what happened. Yeah.
Right. And you do mention some of the fears that a lot of early entrepreneurs have, and they just can't get over that hump. So let's talk about some real issues. So what are some early challenges that you faced in your business?
Early challenges, figuring out, and I knew it, right? But it needed to be confirmed that I was not good with money. So that was one of the first things was, oh, there's a bunch of money coming in here. Oh, it's available to be spent. No, it's not. Like, taxes. Taxes definitely got me. I didn't know what I needed to know. And honestly, like, one of the first things I figured out very quickly, and advice that I would give to anybody starting a business, is make sure you get a good CPA up front. So don't mess around with that, because you need that expertise. So I wish I would have known that. The paying people thing, that really wasn't a thing, because I mean, there's so many services out there that can do payroll for you. That really wasn't much of anything. But pricing got me up front. So, I think every small business will, make the mistake of pricing themselves really, really cheap, right? Because they want customers. And then they're stuck later on with, oh, I'm too cheap, so now I've got to raise all my prices, and then you've got to go back and tell all of your customers that. So those were probably some of the real early things that I struggled with.
Awesome. So yeah, so some really important advisors, or some key people that you need to have on your team, whether they work for you or not. That CPA, maybe an attorney, depending on what the structure of your business is. You may need to get some of those things in place. I can't tell you how many times I've talked to small business owners who are partnerships and they don't have an operating agreement in place. And my first question is, so I apologize for asking this question, Shawn, but when you die, is your wife really happy running your business? And they're like, what?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. When I finally got to the point where I could hire like a chief operating officer, that was one of the first things that she looked at. And she was like, we've got to get you like a lot more insurance. Because there's like, who are you leaving this to? Like, if anything happens, like, do your kids get this? Like, what are we all going to be stuck with?
Right.
So no, that's those are definitely things that there's a bunch of, and have a business plan. Don't start a business without a plan. I did that. Not only did I'm just jumping out of the plane, hopefully the chute goes, but did I actually take a parachute with me?
Dude, does it actually work? Right? Did I pack it? Yeah, right.
Right. Do I have the cord?
Yeah, and maybe over the last 4 or 5 years, it's been a little looser, but I think banks are certainly tightening up, and that business plan is really key if you need some operating capital to get started.
It is, and fortunately, Todd, like I never took a loan out.
Yeah.
So in the history of this company, I have never taken a loan out. So
well, congratulations on that.
Yeah, no, that's very unique. I understand for where I am today. So the company has zero debt and we've never taken a loan. So it's 100% been bootstrapped, and that has been atrociously difficult. But not to paint this all into I don't want to paint a picture that it's horrifying to start a small business. It's challenging, but don't do it the way I did it. Talk to somebody like yourself, right? To meet with somebody in that phase of, hey, I'm trying to start something new here. I want to make the right steps. It just so happened I had this opportunity in front of me, and it was either that or nothing. Or I would have been like any other business and saying, well, I'm going to go without customers for a year, so I'm going to go get this operating loan to sustain this idea that I have, in hopes that after a year I get the customers and I'm able to pay back the loan. So just fortunately, I was able to jump right in.
Right. Yeah, you mentioned it a few times. So a lot of entrepreneurs it's the second career, for lack of a better word. You did a lot of government service and then you started a business. Some people come right out of school and start their business. So certainly stage of life. I mean, what are your current operating expenses at home? Like, what do you need to do? If you have a mortgage, do you have kids? Does your wife work or your spouse work? There's a lot of different variables that you've got to look at. And you're right, there's a lot of questions you need to ask before you actually step to the door of that plane and jump out of it, right? So okay, let's move to today. How about today? What are the biggest challenges you're facing now, 9 years in?
Scale.
Okay.
So, and it's my understanding that this is normal. I'm in the normal phase. So we're at X amount revenue wise, and I can't seem to get over the wall. So it's a scaling issue. There's 19 full-time employees. And what I found is, and again, we've done this all figuring it out ourselves, is that I've had to concentrate very heavily to get over that hump, to figure out what was wrong. time tracking, so being able to look at data and say, instead of like saying we're going to put a plan in place to hire more people, right? If you want to make more revenue, you got to hire more people type thing. Fortunately, we're in an industry where automation can help us out a lot. So we've taken a lot of time to look at automation and, what can scale our revenue without hiring people unless we absolutely have to. So we've spent probably at least a year or two and really buckling down on seeing like where our employees spend time. And that has been really beneficial. We've taken a lot of time in looking at our pricing structure. So, are we hitting those margins that we need to hit, with our current cost of goods and what it takes for us to operate our business and deliver our services? So we've had to take time doing that. And then, we have also been fortunate to be in a situation where we can sell our software. We've developed kind of our own intellectual property, and, the selling the software and licensing our software doesn't take employees. So those types of things, like that's been our biggest challenge though, is how do we scale? So I've told my staff, we want to be a $15 million company in 5 years. Well, that means that we need to grow to 2 million year over year for the next 5 years. And so you can do the backwards math to figure out where we are today. But that's essentially what we want to do, right? And why do we want to do it? And I think that's important, Todd. I think it's important to make sure your employees, I had to learn this, your employees need to be, they want to be behind something.
Yes.
So, make sure that your employees understand the why. Why are we doing what we're doing today? And, I tell our employees, the reason we're doing what we do today and why we want more people is because everybody that we've been able to take under our wing, we have been able to make them better as a company from a cyber perspective and protect them. So the more people we can get, the more people we know are in that safety net. And that they can get behind that, right? There's something bigger that they're a part of. And, they are going to be a part of, I still consider us a ground floor operation. So they're part of it, and they want to, and then they enjoy that.
Yeah, I think you're talking a little bit on the outskirts of change management, which I have a bit of a background in, but you're right. I mean, if you're casting, first of all, you had to cast a really good vision to your team of what you're trying to accomplish. That why behind it, and the why and the what is really, really important. It drives the purpose for folks, and then they can put, like you said, some passion behind it. And then they can be part of helping you drive the business to the next level. And I was going to ask a question about adaptability, and you kind of answered the question in that, in your scaling model, where sounds like you're adapting to some of the challenges in today's world through some AI, maybe some automation, certainly looking at your folks' time and maybe eliminating things that are non-value add, or where you could automate something that they're doing today and utilize their hours for something more important. Does that sound accurate to you?
Yeah, 100%. And one of the other things that we've had to do is, make sure that the customers that we're getting are good fits for who we are as a company. We have a culture here. We have an internal culture that drives our employees, right? I mean, we have I've always been a stickler since day one that we're going to have really good benefits. I'm going to take care of people. So my employees know that they're my priority. It's not the business. It's, first and foremost is my employees. So, they see that culture, but it's very important for our customers to know that there's a customer culture as well. And,
right.
I've told people, and we've told customers, you might just not be a good fit for who we are as a company. There are in our specific industry, there are customers that want to check a box and don't want to hear from you. And that's not us. We're very passionate about what we do. We're very personable. It's in our mission statement, developing that why and then putting it on paper too, and hanging it around in the office and making sure people understand whether you're a customer, a vendor, or an employee, if you don't fit this mission statement, it's probably not going to work.
Man, I love that. Shawn, it sounds like, so you're doing a really good job of asking the right question. I find a lot of the right, and even I came from a pretty big corporate background, and it was always, can we do this? And I would always say, I think we're asking the wrong question. The right question is, should we do it? And you're asking the should we question every single day, whether it's with your employees, your suppliers, or your customers. Does this fit our model? Should we go into that space? Which is incredible. So that's great. I think it really it sounds like you're really building a strong culture through the casting of vision, getting your folks behind the things you're doing, and then also being willing to say no to a customer that may pay the bills, but man, they might be terrible for your business, right?
Yeah, but I want to be really clear. I appreciate all the positive things you're saying about all the things I'm doing that are right, but I want to tell you and be completely transparent to say that I was doing them all wrong before that. So I wasn't casting vision. People didn't know why. So I had to learn, right, that I had to change, that I had to turn this around and really get people to understand. So just to be clear, I wasn't doing all the things right. I had to learn to do that.
Well, thank you for sharing the fact that a lot of people have to learn by bumping their legs, right? Bumping their knees against things and then, oh, I don't want to do that anymore. I got to do something different, right?
If I told you that I didn't almost destroy this company myself 2 times, I would be lying. And that is 100% true. So has it been difficult? Yes. Have I had to learn? Yes. Would I do it all over again? Man, it's a drug. Yes, of course I would. Right.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for your transparency. I appreciate that.
Sure.
So you mentioned in the early on, you talked a little bit about some of the fears that people have, like how am I going to make that paycheck and things. What are some common misconceptions that you think people bring in to the small business world, to the entrepreneurial world?
Probably fear of success. I think it was probably one of the first ones. I'm not going to start this because I probably won't succeed at this anyway. I think they see it as such a huge hurdle. And with the availability of social media nowadays, I think they can be talked more out of it than into it. Unfortunately, just people not knowing the right resources and where to go. If I would have known somebody like you, that there were coaches out there, I had no idea there were business coaches. There are resources available out there, and I think paralysis by analysis is probably more prevalent today. And I think also we've just future leaders that are coming up here, in the ranks from a younger generation, I think are more resilient or not. And I haven't looked at any of the small business statistics, so I don't even know if this is true or not. This is just how I perceive it, as less businesses opening today than 5 or 10 years ago, because of all that additional information that's out there, and I think it just confuses them.
Yeah, and I think there was a blast of business openings during the pandemic and things like that. But yeah, I think the next generation is more entrepreneurial than my generation, which is X and before me, the boomers. It's I think they free flow a little bit more. They want more control early on, and the entrepreneurial path provides that sometimes. But yeah, you're right. I mean, the misconception of, can I really do this? And I think you also made some other points around that. Is there's plenty of resources out there, and maybe one of the misconceptions some people come into is, I don't need help. And you've mentioned a CPA, we've talked about an attorney, we've talked about a coach, right? Oh, those people are there for you.
Yeah, they are. Earlier on than later, what I realized is I'm not an expert at all some of the core areas. So for example, getting back to the finance piece, right? I mentioned that I was horrible with money. Well, I realized really quickly that I need to have somebody look over that for me, because I was going to make a mistake. So very quickly, I determined all the things that I really was not good at, and I made sure that I hired the people around me. Now, there's a whole other discussion of getting to the point where you could even get to hire those people. So fixing the pricing and doing all those things, are very, very critical in the early stages to getting to the point where you can hire those key people at the good rates, right? That you need that valuable expertise. But finance and deep technical knowledge. I was an engineer by trade, but I really wanted to build a business where we were 10 miles deep and a mile wide, not 10 miles wide and a mile deep, which is what I was coming from 19 years of government. So I was used to seeing vendors. There was just this vendor overload of people that were saying that they were really good at a large spectrum, but they didn't have that deep talent, that deep knowledge base. So I wanted to flip that. I wanted to flip that world, and I wanted to tell and show people that, that there are companies out there that are excellent at what they do. So I had to shift a stigma. But yeah, I mean, being able to identify that I wasn't the expert and I needed to hire those experts was critical.
Excellent, excellent. So you've already mentioned one final question for you, actually a couple final questions, but this is the last question. The last one will be advice. But the question I would ask in this space, you already mentioned that you set kind of a revenue target with your team at 15 million. What other, if you think about future plans, what else do you think you're going to be adding and doing in the future, next 3 to 5 years as a business?
That's a really good question. So some of the things that we've talked about have been, which I think is also very critical, especially for a services business, well, really any business in general, is focusing on a vertical. So, there are a lot of benefits of saying we're only going to do, like, for example, we're only going to do the financial sector. Well, when you silo out a vertical like that, from a marketing standpoint and everything else, it's very easy to identify those targets versus saying we're going to be everything to anybody. So, that really shoots your marketing down. And honestly, man, marketing has been the biggest issue for us going forward, because we've never had a problem with like acquiring customers. It's been, our ability to hit the gas from a marketing standpoint and stay on it. But I don't want to get away from your question. But so focusing on a vertical has definitely been, over the next 3 to 5 years. For us, focusing on supply chain. So the whole China Taiwan thing from the sector that we're in, if we get into a standpoint, it was bad enough with COVID where we couldn't get the equipment that we needed because those plants would shut down. And I mean, it really disrupted the supply chain from a tech perspective. I know it damaged it all over the place, but from a tech perspective, we're just now seeing that recovered. Right. And if China invades Taiwan, that's really going to impact the world. So, we're focusing more on what resources can we do, how can we operate as a company without acquiring hardware? So we've really talked about that as a company. And, I've formed a leadership group over the last, 3 or 4 weeks, where we're bringing key leaders in the company, managers and directors, to meet with the executive team and sit in the same room, and really make sure that people hear everything that they need to hear directly from the people that are making the decisions, so that we can have those discussions about, where are the risks, what other products do we need to, do we need to stand up? So, we've talked about, further developing our product platform and making it simpler to understand and to sell. And that's kind of where, from the next 3 years is about as far as I would go from a strategic standpoint anyway, especially in our industry. Those are the concentration points. We've never put a flag in the dirt and said, this is the number we're going after in this amount of years. So it really, I mean, it's really interesting to put those lines out there like that, and then really watch your team really understand, oh, we're really specifically doing something and going somewhere, and mentalities seem to change. It starts to become more clear. They have less questions, and every discussion and meeting that we have is centered around those goals.
Right. Perfect. So final question for you is what final advice would you have for the entrepreneurs that are listening to On It Not In It today?
Get help sooner. You said something that really resonated with me was, I think I can do it, I don't need the help. And you're 100% not correct. So if I would, and it wasn't that I was being stubborn, it was that I didn't know the resources were out there and things were going too fast for me to figure that out anyway. So that's the first advice I would give, is do your research before you start the business, have the plan, seek out coaches, and do your research before, just so that you don't have to have all those huge challenges that I had and having to figure it out. And the second advice, which is more of encouragement, is you can do it. So, again, I wanted to just make sure while you watch this and I've pointed out, somebody may watch and go, oh man, I'll never go through what that guy went through. No, don't take it the wrong way. I'm just being transparent. You ask any business owner, all the way from Amazon to me. Everybody's had their challenges. Everybody's had disastrous situations. And most of the time, they work out fine. Is it hard? Yes, it absolutely is. Is business ownership for everyone? No, it's not.
Awesome. Well, Shawn, thank you so much for your time today. It's been great. I really appreciate your time. We appreciate learning more from you as a small business owner, 9 years. Again, congratulations on all your success.
Thank you.
And I thank you so much for teaching us a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey. To everyone watching, I look forward to seeing you in our next episode. Thanks again, Shawn.
Thank you, Todd.